Essentially, I got obsessed with falconry when I was about 13 years old. And so I volunteered with Birds of Prey at a rehab through high school. In college, I went out hunting with falconers. Then my first year after college, I worked at a falconry school in Ireland. And I did falconry myself for the next 10 years. And in 2020, I got birds for educational programs. I have a red-tailed hawk, a peregrine falcon, and an Eastern Screech Owl. I can do any public or private event that's safe for the birds, essentially, which means, no respiratory risks to them or like physical danger. So I do a lot of birthday parties for kids and adults. I do a lot of fundraising events. I do corporate events. And I love doing weddings. I'll be like cocktail hour, entertainment, and Zephyr here, the peregrine falcon. He's the only bird of Raptor Jawns that could be handled by the public, so people can interact with him and handle him. The other two, just me or folks who are permitted for it, but he is allowed to interact with the public. So for smaller programs or programs where it's safe for him to be transferred around a little bit, the peregrine can interact with folks. So, I mean, it's always a message of conservation, of course. We're not in quite dire territory as we were in the 70s with Silent Spring and DDT. Like a lot of the numbers of birds of prey have rebounded and are doing really well. In fact, the 3 birds that I have are species that you can find within the Philadelphia city limits and have adapted really well to urban life as well. But, making sure that we don't encroach on their habitat more and more. It's obviously connected to climate change too. It can affect like the quality of their eggs and their offspring and their habitat and territories. So a message of conservation, and then also just, it's pretty unique to be able to get this close to a feral bird of prey, which is just my passion for it, I think, comes across pretty clearly, and I love sharing that with other people. All 3 of my birds on display. I'll have the peregrine, the red-tailed hawk, and the Eastern Screech Owl. And so they'll be out the whole time. You can come up and ask any questions you want about the birds, get a pretty close-up view at each one. Ask any questions you have about falconry or birds of prey, and, take a selfie with the birds if you'd like. You won't be able to interact with any of them physically there, but you can take as many pictures and ask as many questions as you'd like. The red-tailed hawk, her name is Medea, and she's from a wildlife rehab in Connecticut. She was found starving in the woods and wasn't able to survive on her own. The owl that I have, she's an imprint on me. So I've had her from the time that she was 10 days old. So she can't survive in the wild because she thinks that she is me. She thinks that she's a human. But it makes her really calm and excellent to have around groups of people. And then the peregrine falcon, he's my newest addition. He's the oldest bird at 15 years old. So he could live to be in his early 20s or so, and he's a retired breeder. So he was in a breeding program, started slowing down in his older years, and now he's living out his retirement with Raptor Jawns. More exposure to the birds of prey, ability to identify these birds that are in your area, so more consciousness of the environment that's around you and like the wildlife that's around in even pretty dense urban areas. I mean, especially a place like Ambler is like a greenway in a really developed area. So there's going to be tons of wildlife there and in the surrounding area that you might not get in such concentrations otherwise. At least a fraction of the pleasures that I get of being close to these birds of prey, just kind of awe and beauty and inspiration from the natural world. And hopefully, get a few questions answered if something comes up, and, to learn more about falconry and raptors and conservation. This bird has been with me since she was 10 days old. She's now 4 years old, 4.5 years old. She's not a baby. She's full size. She's just a very small species. She weighs about 6 or 7 ounces. So Stella probably weighs around 3 pounds. So she's significantly smaller than a great horned owl. It's the smallest owl that we have in the area that has those ear tufts. You can see those specialized feathers for camouflage. And so I knew when I was doing education that I wanted to have a diurnal and a nocturnal species to show the differences. And she's just the perfect size for the space that I have available. I know people in Germantown and in Philly, close to the Wissahickon, that hear these owls, at night, at dawn and dusk. Mostly forest areas, anywhere that they can find like a nice hollow tree to have a nest in, the cavity dwellers. So They're found mostly like suburban and rural forested areas would be the most popular places. But they'll certainly be on the edge of cities. We've got plenty of food for them, mice and locusts and grasshoppers and tadpoles and crayfish that they can eat up.